What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Perhaps. I left real quick, and now the world's ending. It seems like it. A lot has happened. I think I was gone for 2 months, but I was gone because I was finishing this book that I've been working on for 2 years, and now it's done. So I'm back, and it feels good to be back. I just recorded a special Patreon episode. We have a few of those up on the Patreon, patreon.com/Damon Garcia. If you want to support this podcast and everything I do, go check that out. Go check out that episode. I get more into the writing process and my process of the breakthrough that it took to finish this book. And check that out. And this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the book and talk a bit about what's been going on in the world. A bit about the mass deportations that have been happening, the end times, which some say we might be in, Trump covering up the Epstein case, and if we have time, we'll even get into a bit of Superman. I saw that. I've been trying to get back into the world after finishing this book. The last month and a half has just been major writing cave vibes. And now we're slowly getting back into the swing of things, of life that stays lifing, and getting back into this podcast. I miss doing this podcast. I needed a bit of a warm up. That's partly why I did that Patreon episode. Literally just recorded it. And now let's get into it, everybody. But first, we need to get some things out of the way. Theology Beer Camp is coming up October 16th to the 18th. In St. Paul, Minnesota, right next to Minneapolis. It'll be my first time over there. So I think it's right next to Minneapolis. I'm going to be staying in Minneapolis. But Theology Beer Camp, I've been going last 2 years. Started and led by this guy, Trip Fuller of the Homebrewed Christianity podcast. Really awesome podcast. Interviews a bunch of biblical scholars and authors and creators. And at this, it's not a camp, by the way. It's just a cool name, but it's at this the venue we're doing it at. We're going to talk about theology, but in a cooler way, getting into some more creative theologies, more liberative theologies, healthy theologies with biblical scholars, but also podcasters like your boy is going to be there. Let's see who else. We got John Dominic Crossan, legend, is going to be there. Reggie Williams, Kelly Brown Douglas, Adam Clark, Philip Clayton, Grace G. Sun Kim, Dan Koch. I'm just going through some of the people I know. Thomas J. Ord, P. Enns, Roberto Che Espinoza. Bunch of people, bunch of scholars, and a bunch of podcasters. So if you want to go to that, go check that out, theologybeer.camp for tickets in October. I'll be there. Now, let's talk about more. Let's talk about this book. You don't need a calling. So what do I mean by you don't need a calling? Well, the type of calling I'm rejecting in this book is one that preaches that you need to change into some better version of yourself in order to become valuable, or you need to change your life into some better version of your life in order for life to be worth it. And talk about how capitalism takes advantage of that dissatisfaction and hijacks it and preaches to us that satisfaction we're seeking, that becoming valuable that we're seeking, that feeling, is on the other side of success. And if you don't feel it, then you just need to become more successful, more successful, more rich, more independent, even though that independence is a false independence. And that'll fix you. But that's not how life really works. You already are valuable. And it's from that position of already being valuable that we're able to pay attention and discover all the small, simple callings all around us. calling out to us to respond. And the type of purpose I'm rejecting is similar. It's one that is future oriented, always out of our grasp, telling us we need to achieve something in order to make life worth it. And instead, we're talking about how purpose is actually how you show up in the world as you are. And you find purpose in presence, not in achieving something in the future or becoming something. You're already constantly becoming. Constant state of change. And when you're able to follow that kind of purpose, you learn that you don't need a calling. You just need community. And it's in your life in community that you will find all these small, simple callings. And that's what life's really all about. And so I wrote a whole book about it that goes way, way more in depth than this small explanation. Goes way more in depth to my own personal story. A lot of really, really personal stories. Go into some traumatic experiences I had to pull up from deep inside me of my own evolution on how I feel about my calling and purpose and different ways that I've explored that. But also very deep on a political level, getting into the context of capitalism. Because if we want to understand our lives differently and we want to understand the purpose of our lives, then we have to understand the forces that shape our lives. So if we want to have an honest conversation about purpose, we have to talk about the context, the larger context of an economic system, capitalism, that's destroying us. And a lot of books about purpose don't talk about that. It's like they pretend capitalism doesn't even exist. Or the ones that do get into that, if you read it and it feels like you're required to read several other books before you can understand this other book. And so that's another goal of this book, is to make it a lot more accessible, readable. You don't need to know anything about capitalism before reading this book. You don't need to know anything about purpose. You don't need to know anything about spirituality. Nothing. I worked really hard on this thing. It took a lot out of me. All my energy, sweat, and tears went into this book over the last 2 years, and it's finally done. And so, like I said, I get way more into the process of finishing it in that bonus episode on Patreon, but I just wanted to give y'all a quick description of what this book is and tell you to go pre-order it. It's already available for pre-order. Oh yeah, it comes out June 23rd, 2026, like a whole year from now. I'm sorry for teasing some of you who may have gotten really excited about my description of the book and were like, I need that book now. But now you gotta wait. I'm sorry, it's just a little teaser. The way traditional publishing works takes a while between finishing a book and going through like copy editing, like proofreading and formatting and making the books, getting them into stores, booksellers, storing them in their warehouses and all that fun stuff, and also promoting it. But also another reason it takes so long is because we need pre-orders. And booksellers determine how many books to order and keep in stock based on pre-order numbers. And so, if you want to help me out, don't wait until June 23rd, 2026 to buy this book. Pre-order it literally anywhere you get books. And based on those numbers, it'll encourage booksellers to order and store more copies so more people can find it. And I think this book will help a lot of people. So I want more people to find it. So please help me out. But also like Barnes & Noble, for example, doesn't store physical copies of the book in their physical stores unless there's a significant number of pre-orders on their website. And so I didn't do that really for the first book. I told people to pre-order a lot for the first book that came out in 2022, but that book is The God Who Riots, right behind me. But I like didn't really promote the Barnes and Noble pre-order link, and so I don't think I didn't get that many pre-orders to Barnes and Noble. It makes sense. I didn't really talk about it, and this time I got to push it. I want to push it because I want more people to find it. And so if you want to help in general, of like help Damon get his book out there and more people to see it, then I should suggest pre-ordering through Barnes and Noble's website. It's already there. It's on like every book selling website. It's on Walmart.com. It's on all of them. I think Amazon takes the longest to like algorithmically process data or whatever. And so I don't know if it's available on Amazon yet, but don't worry about Amazon. Order it from Barnes and Noble. If you want to go big company, big private book selling company, choose Barnes and Noble, because I want the book to get out there. And otherwise, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You could order through, oh, by the way, if you order through Barnes & Noble website, that doesn't mean you have to go to a Barnes & Noble to pick it up. It still gets delivered to your house like Amazon. But I was going to say, otherwise, I'd strongly recommend ordering through a local bookstore. Go pick it up. If you got a local bookstore, all you got to do is call them. I think some of them even have, you could do it through their website. But if not, just call them or go in. And you could pre-order it through there. And some of them probably even deliver it, or will have it delivered to your house. Or pre-order it now and then get contacted when it comes out and then go pick it up from your local bookstore. And if you don't want to do that, then order through bookshop.org, which is just a book selling website that delivers books for you. But they part of the money there supports local bookstores. But overall, I get the same exact royalty paid wherever you buy it, literally. Even if you find a website that has it discounted, I still get the same. That discounts on them. And so, yeah, I'm trying to already push these pre-orders. Help me out, people. Pre-order this book. I really appreciate it. The more pre-orders, the more it encourages booksellers to order more and give it better placement. And the publisher could also use pre-order numbers to talk to media outlets to get reviews and interviews. So, in general, helps momentum and helps it get more books out there and more people to find it. And like I said, I think this book can help a lot of people. So I want more people to find it. And this book is really good. It's worth it, people. This book is really, I like this book a lot better than my first book for a few reasons. One, the subject, I think, is more exciting for me to talk about. And it gets into, I think, a larger scope of my life that I talk through in this book. But also, I think the writing is better. One, because I think I'm just a better writer now, a few years later. But then also, I intentionally tried to write it to be more accessible. So, and I learned from the first book and did different things of like that I wished I could have written better or clearer in the first book, or ways I phrase things, or terms I use. Like in this book, I tried as much as I can to use terms that are used in everyday conversation, and in general, just try to make it as accessible as possible. So this book's awesome. Okay, go get it. Go get it. But yeah, the last couple months that I was working on this book, I disappeared a bit, isolated quite a bit, but the world kept worlding, life kept lifing, things kept happening, And one of the big things that was going on were these anti-ICE protests and in response to the increase in mass deportations. You know, Trump doing the thing he said he was going to do. Even though a lot of people, I'm sure, just thought he was just joshing, I guess. I don't know. And what's interesting about that part is people are actually changing their mind. I just read this article today that said a record of 79% of American adults think immigration is good for the country. And it is, according to a new Gallup poll. And the number of Americans who want immigration reduced dropped sharply from 55 to 30% since last year's poll. So last year was at 55, this year's at 30. And then this article also said, in July 2024, the number of Americans who said they wanted to curb immigration had spiked to 55% in the Gallup survey, the first time since 2009 that the majority of Americans have sought to decrease immigration, which makes sense that with all the rhetoric going on, all the anti-immigration rhetoric, the economic anxiety so many people are feeling, and then having politicians telling them it's all immigrants' fault and they're super violent, and Mexico and Central American and South American countries are sending super violent criminals to take over, invade, blah, blah, blah. And people who aren't willing to actually stop and think and do the research buy into it. And so it makes sense that would spike. And then support for deporting all undocumented immigrants dropped to 38% from 47% last year. And so I think what we're seeing is people looking around and actually seeing what it looks like to not only deport undocumented immigrants, but also to demonize them. And then also seeing the obvious expected consequence that so many people expected, that it would go beyond who they said that they were going to deport. Which first, the narrative was like, I did a whole video on this on my YouTube. Go check it out. It was a couple months ago. Or a few months ago, whatever. Right before like the recent big wave of mass deportation started, where you saw these Christian pastors saying things like, don't worry, everybody. They're just going after the violent criminals. So if you're not a violent criminal, then you have nothing to worry about. That wasn't even true when they said that. They're already, like a story I told was about a man who had immigrated and with his family and immediately went to the police and checked in and sought for the beginning of a legal immigration process and sought asylum. And he got an ankle monitor and a scheduled court date, scheduled years ahead, and hadn't even reached that court date yet. And so he was following what he's supposed to follow. And they knew where he was. And he had an ankle monitor. And he would regularly check in. And he was working and part of a church. And at church, ICE came and arrested him. And it's like, first off, not a violent criminal. Second off, not even the type of illegal immigrant that people are saying ICE is going after. Like, he was doing everything he was supposed to do. And I said, like, this is obviously where it's headed. It's just furthering out that scope of who's a target of ICE wider and wider and wider, to the point of even arresting and detaining Mahmoud Khalil, who was on a student visa and was protesting the violence of the Israeli government against Palestinians, and was arrested for that. Which is like, I thought you Trump fans were all about free speech. Not really. Never were. But but it's like, it's all an attempt to strengthen the surveillance state, as they call it, which enacts its power through government agencies like ICE and the whole umbrella of Department of Homeland Security. But the thing that people don't really understand is that this is big business. Mass deportations are very profitable because in order to carry out these deportations and detaining people, the whole detention facilities it's all through collaboration with private companies. Most detention facilities are run by private companies Geo Group and Core Civic. And also the private companies for the airlines, private companies of the health insurance that goes in the detention facilities, but also private prisons. Also, it's a whole private company to run the communication systems, the internet storage for these government agencies, the creating, I think it's BI Incorporated. Yeah, BI Incorporated, creating ankle monitors and other surveillance devices, tracking devices. And also private companies like Palantir, software company, being paid to create Immigration OS, an app that's supposed to track migrants and like it says track. It's worded as like to track their self-deportation, making sure they're actually leaving, and if not, then to go detain them. But in order to make an app like that, that requires you to surveil everybody. And that's what this app has been gathering. That's what the software company has been gathering in order to create an app like this. And Palantir has already created other softwares for predictive policing, like Minority Report style, where they track everyone and track of course, all your social media, but also all your transactions, all your locations, all your messages. And all in order to determine if you might commit a crime and to go stop you before you might commit a crime. And these softwares have already been implemented in a few different police departments throughout the country. Palantir also is responsible for some of the AI directed weapons in Gaza. It's a big IDF contractor. And same with the big contract for the US military too. Palantir is like Skynet. was that what it's called in Terminator? Or am I throwing some other existing company under the bus? I forget what it's called. But yeah, the scary stuff. And these are all companies that you can see their stocks just shot up. I mean, over the last decade, but especially over the last year. And so, and what's also wild is, especially with the Geo Group and Core Civic, some of the stocks in Geo Group were just stocks that were in pension funds of government employees. It was a few years back, an association of teachers realized that some of the stocks in their pension funds and their 401ks and pension funds were like pretty sketchy. It's like, why are we investing in private prisons and detention centers? Geo Group does both. Why, why is that where my money is invested? And so they released a whole study about it, breaking it down, and were able to divest and encourage their specific pension fund to take their money out of that. And so, but not all of these 401k plans and pension plans are like public for all of us to know which stocks are in them. And it's very likely that many Congress members, as part of their 401ks and pension plans, still have stocks in Geo Group. And so there's politicians that like just personally have their money invested in private prisons and private companies that are being used to carry out mass deportations. But also some of these people may have it in their 401k. And so it's like, think about that conflict of interest and think about how that motivates a lot of the things we see going on. And then and how it's making people who are invested in these companies a lot richer. It's scary stuff. And I think there's just a very abhorrent, violent perspective that people who are anti-immigrant have, people who demonize immigrants. And at the same time, there's also this very material, visible violence going on, and the ways that we see these private companies are being used. It's like it's both. When you're able to look at it from both, it's both. So it's scary. And like I said, and like so many other people said, it's going to keep widening who they say the target is as they move on to people who have been here their whole lives, people who went through the whole legal process, people who are here on visas, people who have green cards. And beyond that, move toward people who just say what they don't like people protesting Israel. This is all just strengthening a totalitarian surveillance government. And so what's interesting about it is, as I started seeing this stuff go down, it reminded me of when I was a kid. I grew up in evangelical, Pentecostal, Christian church, and there was a lot of talk about the end times, the rapture, the tribulation, the Antichrist. And a part of this whole story was that in the future, there's going to be a time where the devil becomes human incarnate through a man that is the Antichrist. And the Antichrist is going to take over the government and use the government to create a very totalitarian, authoritarian state that would target Christians and not allow Christians to believe what they want to believe, not allow them to say what they want to say. And target them, arrest them, execute them. And we have to be prepared for when this happens. Some people believed that there was going to be a rapture that would supernaturally take up all the Christians to heaven before the tribulation. Other Christians said, nah, we're going to live through it, so we got to be prepared. This is all based on bad interpretations of Scripture. Nobody talked about a rapture until, I think, 200 years ago. Definitely no more than that. And then a lot of this stuff about the end times, also misinterpretations. I mean, a lot of this stuff that, I don't want to get too deep in this. I don't want this whole episode to be about this, but I'll just say, first of all, those prophecies that they point to in Revelation, some in Daniel, some in the Gospels, some in Isaiah, are referring to actual persecution that they were facing in the time period that they're writing in by the hands of the Roman Empire that was targeting, arresting, and executing Christians. And not even necessarily because they're Christians and they didn't like Jesus, but because a big part of the life and rhetoric of the early Christian movement was proclaiming that Jesus is Lord, Caesar is not. That Jesus came to usher in the kingdom of God, which implies an ushering out of the kingdom of Caesar. Like there was a lot of anti-empire rhetoric in the way they preached, but also in the way that they lived in these communes that sought to take care of and feed each other, to create a community that isn't dependent on the Roman Empire. And so they were seen as a movement that challenged the Roman Empire. And so they were targeted and executed, and they wrote about it. And they saw that this was going to keep ramping up. I mean, wait, hold on. I'm talking about the verses in the Gospels and Revelation, because I mentioned Daniel and Isaiah earlier. The ones in Daniel and Isaiah in the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible, were referring to persecution under Babylon, I believe. Yeah, Babylon. And so, anyway, I'm not trying to conflate those things together like the Old Testament was talking about us Christians. Nah, I hate that. Anyway, so the Christians knew it was going to ramp up. And so, and as it ramped up, they imagined Christ returning and putting an end to the empire's persecution of everyone. And so that's the prophecy talked about in Revelation. And that didn't happen. The Roman Empire kept on. And the real messed up thing is the Roman Empire ended up converting to Christianity. And then Christians got on the side of the oppressor and used the power of the Roman Empire to persecute Jewish people and pagans. And pagan was just a term that meant civilian. And then it meant non-Christian. And so it basically, like, people who didn't want to convert to Christianity. And so, and also, I mean, not just non-Christian, but people who were still committed to the polytheistic gods of Roman and Greek culture. So, yeah, anyone who didn't want to convert to Christianity were made an enemy, violently persecuted. And so the real messed up twist that ended up happening was that Christian leaders went on the side of this antichrist figure that some of these New Testament prophets refer to. And at the same time, many other Christians, as this started to go down, went the other direction and were like, no, we're not an empire religion. And we're not about that. And they went into the desert and said, we're starting our own thing from scratch, where we feel like we're going to be more true to our faith apart from the power of the empire. That's where you get Saint Benedict, starting the Benedictine rule of monks. And throughout Christian history, you have those two streams of those who choose the side of power to persecute their enemies through the government, and other Christians who are like, nah, I don't think this is what Jesus was talking about. I think we're supposed to be living a different type of way and be empowered by our faith to help and serve and be in solidarity with the oppressed, not to persecute, not to do the oppressing. And so we see today, I very much believe that evolution of oppressive empire Christianity is represented by the religious right in the United States, the moral majority, the political evangelical movement. And so I think what we're seeing today is the modern version of empire Christianity creating this story by misinterpreting several verses of the Bible that fantasize about this future where they become the victims and experience the oppression that they've been carrying out. It's a whole story of like one day Christians are going to become the religious minorities and be treated the way that Christian oppressive leaders have always treated religious minorities. Like, I'm trying to make a distinction here. I'm not saying something about all Christians. I'm Christian. And I'm not saying all Christians are like this or have ever been like this. I've always been like this. It's a very particular stream of people who use their faith to legitimize oppression, which isn't all Christians. And meanwhile, there are a lot of Christians who have just been swayed and manipulated and deceived by this version of faith. And then there are also a bunch of people who've chosen to be empowered by their faith to fight against this type of injustice. And that's the type of people I align with. And so it's very strange. And it reminds me of you have these random quotes from people like Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, I think John Adams too, about like considering freeing enslaved people. And people point to that and see, oh, look, they had an inkling of good in them. But those people, especially Thomas Jefferson, like his opinion on that was linked to him believing that if we keep them enslaved, eventually they're going to turn on us and take over and enslave us in revenge. Like that's what was motivated, not an idea of like, aren't we all equal as humans? Why should a human enslave another human? No, it was like trying to protect himself, trying to protect white people from getting his, and that's, you see that a lot in the logic and rhetoric of oppressive groups throughout history who believe we have to keep oppressing this group, we have to keep suppressing them, we have to keep disenfranchising them, keep them poor, keep them under the boot. Because if we stop, then they might turn on us and take revenge. But it's like, nah, they're not. That's you guys. That's you guys who think like that. And so I'm reminded of that with some of the end times talk too, because it's like the government is going to persecute Christians the way that Christians have persecuted others for so long, which is demonizing people of other faiths, sometimes executing them, arresting them, executing them, forcing them to convert, marking them when they don't convert, not allowing them to meet, to gather. It's like all that fantasy of the end time tribulation story we could see throughout history has been violence carried out by oppressive Christian leaders. And so anyway, I grew up hearing this story of what the end times would be like. And then I see this actually happening under the Trump administration. People being demonized, arrested, deported, not allowed to gather, an increasing surveillance state that determines what we can and can't say and arrest people for saying the wrong thing. It's like, shouldn't you look around and see that, according to your story, wouldn't Trump fit the perfect description for the Antichrist? If they were honest, all of those Christians would say, obviously Trump is the Antichrist. Obviously. But it was never about being honest. It was always a fantasy that was also similar to how he said this rhetoric is used by oppressive people. It was always, that story of the end times always used to maintain Christian power. That we have to keep Christ in Christmas, keep God in the schools, keep the Bible and prayer in schools, keep our representation dominating the over the representation of everyone else, so that we don't enter into this tribulation situation where we're persecuted. And that's what it was always about. And of course, not everyone thinks of it that technically. So many people are just going along with whatever their leaders are saying. And those leaders are going along with whatever other leaders are saying, authors that seem smarter than them, and just buying into it. I think so many people are just deceived. And that's why they're not being logically consistent. And like I said, it's all based on weird misinterpretations of Scripture. So that's also why Trump isn't the Antichrist. Because I think if we want to get real, how do you say, real deep into authentically interpreting this sacred text in a way that can capture the truth, capital T truth, that they're communicating. From that perspective, we would say that the Antichrist is a cyclical figure that exists throughout time and throughout the world. It's any figure who uses their faith and power to demonize other people for their faith and for their, in a very violent, oppressive way. And is just totally counter to the message of Jesus. And so, which is all about freeing the oppressed, feeding the hungry, taking care of the sick, creating these communities where we do take care of each other, like the communities in Acts. It's like, it could be simple, y'all. It's simple when we stop trying to combine Christian faith with government power. It becomes so much simpler. But it gets complicated when you try to make those two things work together. And so, that's annoying. But and then we're seeing with this Epstein stuff. Trump's in the Epstein files. Of course he is. Of course. But it's it's wild to see so many. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about so many. It's just the people that pop up in my feed, or the people that pop up in my feed talk about Trump supporters who are turning on Trump because this was a big thing that they cared a lot about. Trump was supposed to drain the swamp of the pedophilic elite who had taken over the government, and Trump even campaigned on releasing the Epstein files and saying that Bill Clinton was on them. And then Bill Clinton went to the island, and he's going to be in big trouble. And now it's all a hoax that the Democrats made up. That's what Trump is saying now. Oh, man. But we'll see what happens with that. I think there is a possibility that they don't actually have as much evidence as they say they do, like the FBI director is saying, simply because why would you keep evidence of that kind of thing around? I could imagine them not being careful to not print out client lists and being careful to not keep everything so documented and being careful to not film things. And also being careful to destroy evidence when they can. And so the FBI director is saying, like, oh yeah, there's nothing there. There are no videos. There's nothing. It's yeah, I could see, this is me being charitable, I could see a reality where there really isn't that much evidence. However, I'm saying that to say that the evidence is destroyed or not kept, not to say that nothing happened. But I think there probably is more evidence. I just read this article that they got this letter from Trump, this weird letter from Trump to Epstein on his birthday about his just weird secretive language of like, isn't life great when we keep secrets? Something like that. The secret we're keeping together, and drew a picture of a naked woman. You can look it up. I'm not going to get deep into it. It's that also, they didn't even show the picture. But apparently more is going to come from that. I think there's stuff that people have on Trump linking him to Epstein, but it takes a while to like develop it into something that can actually be released. Like I think certain media companies have things like this letter thing that they're sitting on for a while, because they're trying to avoid being sued for defamation. So they got to make sure everything is covered. So I think more things will eventually come out as they're able to put that together in a way that protects them from being sued. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I also wouldn't be surprised if nothing happens. So, yeah, before we go, I was about to end right now, but I did say we'd talk a bit about Superman. Superman! A lot of these people were mad about Superman too, because James Gunn said it was an immigrant story. Because, Superman is an immigrant from Krypton. And people are so silly, yo. But it's also like it's not even like explicit about it. It's like subtext, I guess you could call it. But like, you can enjoy the movie and not even get that. It's just like people enjoy being mad. That's something I realized. Like, people talk about how we're so polarized today. We're so divided. People fighting all the time. People complaining. People always down each other's throats about politics. And we just need to get to a point where we can be nicer to each other and have conversations and across the aisle. Here's something I think a lot of those people don't realize. People act like that because they enjoy it. even if they don't consciously realize they enjoy it. People who spend all day trolling, owning the libs, cursing out random people who seem liberal, and just like, and going on and on about freaking Snow White, and don't put a woman of color in my superhero movie, in my video game, in my Disney movie. Like, people think that there's a way to appease those people, like either by doing what they say or by finding a way to find common ground. But the truth is, they like it in the same way that people like the gossip tabloids and gossiping about celebrities and talking trash about celebrities. It's extremely similar. Perez Hilton is the main cultural shifter when it comes to politics. Everything in political discourse today has been determined by the way that Perez Hilton carried out his media, his journalism, his whatever. It's all Perez Hilton now. And so, and they like it. They love it. They love trolling. What's her name? Rachel Zegler, Snow White. They love trolling James Gunn. They love trolling. There's a deep part of them just likes it, like a little kid poking his sibling, and just being seen. So many of these people feel so freaking lonely and so overlooked and unseen, and like there's no hope in their life. And the little bit of symbolic power they can get is by trolling. Is by trolling. It's sad. And it doesn't even have anything to do with their politics. It's something that is just a sad psychological state of so many people today, no matter their political position. And that's why so many people were mad about Superman. And then you have people mad about Superman being pro-Palestine. But it's not really. I mean, yeah, so in the movie, Bavaria, I think it's called, is this evil government in the Middle East who is persecuting and moving into occupying and taking over the land of a neighboring state. I forget what it's called, but it's all very similar to the Israel-Palestine situation, but it's two fictional places, and Superman protects the other people and throws around Bavaria's tanks and goes against the leader, rubs his back on a cactus or something, and that's a big theme of the whole movie of the American government being like, "Yo, this ain't your place, Superman." And yeah, that's a big part of the whole story. And so people looked at it as like, oh, it's such an obvious parallel to Israel and Palestine, which I'm sure, yeah, that probably was an inspiration there. But people say it's such an obvious parallel that it's straight up anti-Israeli government and pro-Palestine. But here's the thing. I'm not willing to give it credit because it's not literally pro-Palestine. It doesn't, nowhere in there does it actually. It's like you gotta read into it and make parallels on your own. And I heard he wrote the script before October 7th. And Israel had already occupied Palestine. And what was it, in the 1940s? It has been a thing. Israel has been violently oppressing Palestine and slowly moving into taking more and more of their land for decades. But I don't know if it's not clear enough for me, okay? It's not clear enough. for me to give it that credit, for me to give it that praise. But I get it. I mean, it's there. But I think here's the other big thing that people don't really realize. To make a superhero movie in the 21st century, it requires you to get on that political level. Because it's like, who's going to fight Superman? Especially who's going to fight Superman in the 21st century in this political and cultural climate. Superman's not going to fight bank robbers. None of these superheroes are going to fight bank robbers. None of them. None of the Marvel guys either. Because I think we empathize with thieves these days. We empathize with a lot of criminals who are down and out and need the money. And so it made sense to put that in a comic several decades ago. But in a movie, it's not as easy to cheer the superhero on, especially because part of what the superhero does is violently beat them up. He doesn't just stop them. And if he does just stop them, then that's not an exciting scene. We want to see the superhero fight. And so having the superhero with super strength, I'm talking about all of these superheroes now, beat up a normal human criminal is kind of awkward. And so now you have to have them fight aliens. That's what we've been seeing the whole MCU. And if not aliens, then interdimensional beings. And if not them, then just other mutants or people from other universes. An even bigger alien like Galacticus is the new guy in the Marvel new Marvel alien guy. Or a terrorist. That's the new one. I'm sure you've noticed in the last 10 years of superhero movies, or 15 years, has to be a terrorist. But here's the thing: terrorists are usually anti-imperialist, and in order to make any superhero movie, there usually needs to be a level of anti-imperialism in there in order to make sense. And so in order to make the character more well-rounded and not so flat and cartoonishly evil, they give this terrorist villain a motivation that makes sense, like punishing rich people and protecting the lives of poor people. And at this point, I'm describing several superhero movies over the last 15 years. And but you have to add in a scene where he kills a kid. so that we don't completely side with him and cheer on our superhero as he beats the hell out of him. So superhero movies are in a weird place right now, where in order to make sense, they have to get into these weird politics, or keep it with aliens. It's like those are the two options: aliens, interdimensional beings, other mutants, or get political. So I do not envy these people creating superhero movies these days. They're in a strange position. Especially when you get into the weird morality of superheroes, who many of them could be kind of borderline fascist in the way that they determine justice all on their own, outside of any regulation, beating the hell out of whoever they want to beat the hell out of with no consequences as they scurry or fly away after they're done. Yeah, they're cooked. So anyway, So, but Superman was cool. Yeah, it was cool. But I did think there was a little too many characters. I wanted to dive deeper into some of the characters. There's too many. But like Hawk Girl could have been taken out of the movie and it's the same exact movie. Also, like she was barely in there. And I was excited. I think the actress is cool. The characters seem cool. But it was a big nothing. Her character, even Green Lantern was cool. He did things. He moved the story along, but it could have been more. Mr. Terrific, they did a lot with him, but yeah, I also wanted more. But they did enough with him. And then Jimmy Olsen, give me more Jimmy Olsen, not just geared around that girlfriend of Lex's. Also, I didn't like Lex Luthor. I don't like the actor who played Lex Luthor. He's too wholesome looking. He just is this controversial? I look at him and I just see a British schoolboy. He has such a baby face. And he just looks British. Which is funny because some of these British actors will play Americans you don't even know. But I look at this guy, he just looks like a British boy. And I can't take him seriously as Lex Luthor. I just can't. And he was at one point almost played Batman. I think that would have been a terrible idea. Another point, he was going to play Superman in this movie. Also a terrible idea. So glad he didn't get those roles. But yeah, I mean, now I'm just hating. I'm sorry. He just needs, maybe in 10 years, he'll have a more of a face for those roles. But anyway, sorry, the people who are fans of, what's his name, Nicholas Hoult, something like that. It's just my opinion. And if you want to disagree with me, just remember we're too polarized and divided today, and we need to have more conversations across the aisle. Okay. Anyway. But it was cool. I'm excited for what James Gunn does with DC movies, and I'm extremely excited for the Batman 2 because fight me, but Robert Pattinson is the best Batman of all time, and I had that opinion before the movie came out. I knew he was going to be the best Batman, and I'm not saying I'm biased by saying I decided that before the movie came out, but the movie just confirmed it even more. He's the best. And I'm excited for the Batman 2 in like 2029 or something. But that's all for now. It was a fun comeback episode. For the next episode, we'll get more into stuff going on in the world, stuff going on in life, and talk a bit more about the book as it gets closer. Go pre-order that thing. You don't need a calling. Just search it up, Google, Damon Garcia. You don't need a calling. You can find it wherever, or search it on Barnes & Noble. I'll put a link in the description too. So I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.